Hey, in this video, let's see what it would take to create something like this in here in Maya. So I found this on Pinterest, and it's a fun reference of kind of a parchment paper ancient map that's very cartoony, and I thought this would be a fun little exercise to create in Maya. Maybe we don't have to um, create textures for it, but we could just at least see what it would take to model this. So to start, what I would like to do first is jump into my top view, and I'm going to go to sculpting. I'm going to go to curves and click on the EP curve. And the very first thing that I'd like to do is create this um, swirl of the edge of the parchment paper. So what I'm going to do is just simply click around to create kind of the edge flow of the paper. And towards the very end, it gets very close to the paper, so keep that in mind right there. If you needed to adjust your points, you can always right click and go to vertex mode. Select any of the points you want to adjust and press W, and that will allow you to kind of maybe straighten out some of the points. But this is the part that I want to show you. So you can see right here, it kind of starts out really loose, and then as it comes around towards the end, the parchment paper kind of folds in itself, right? It almost touches right there, and that's what I tried to do here. It's kind of very loose, and then it goes much closer to towards the end. And maybe this part here is a little more pronounced. So you can work out the shape that you want. And once you're done, let's go to object mode. And now what I would like to do is let's go ahead and stay in the top view and go back to the poly modeling tab, grab something like the box. And now this is the starting point and this is the end point, right? So at the starting point, let's create a box, something like that. And we can even rotate it to sort of match the flow. I know it's kind of hard to see, but I'm matching the flow of this box. And now if I press spacebar, I can go back into my perspective view, and we can also press the F key. And now what we need to do is let's just find the center of where this line is. So it's kind of meeting the box in the middle. And think of the size of this box as sort of this width of the paper, right? So, you know, we probably want it to be very skinny. So like this length here is the width of the parchment paper. All right, now the next step, let's go ahead and go into our face mode and delete all these faces on the back. Just press delete key. And now we're just left with something like this. Now I'm gonna click, still being in the face mode, I'm gonna click on the face, hold down the shift key and click on the AP curve. And now let's go ahead and click the extrude button. And once we press the extrude button, it does something really, really strange. But if we go to the divisions and dial this up, we can see that it actually follows the curve to create the edge that we want. And obviously 25 is not enough. So let's go ahead and do maybe, let's try 75. So 75 seems like it's better. That should work. All right. Next, I'm gonna go into object mode, and let's go ahead and click on our shape, and let's disconnect it from the curve. We no longer need that, so I'm gonna go to Edit, Delete by Type History, and in my outliner, I'm gonna click on the curve and press Delete. I no longer need it, right? And now what I would like to do is I would like to extrude this paper up. So essentially creating the cylinder, right? So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go to face mode, click on this face here, and then follow the loop and end right here. So I'm going to hold on the shift key and double click. All right. And now what we could do is we can either extrude it, or because we already have the bottom edge in place, all we need to do is just really pull this up. So let's grab our transformation move tool and let's just simply pull this up, right? So let's decide how much of the paper we want, and we can always adjust this. So once you're done, go to object mode. Let's go ahead and click on this button here to center our pivot in the center. Click the rotation, hold on the J key to snap this 90 degrees. And now let's go to our move tool, hold on the X key, and let's just drop it right in the center. So it kind of snaps, right? And now we're left with something like this. And at this point, you can grab the scale tool and decide exactly how much of the length you want your parchment paper to be. We can also press the rotate button if we want to, rotate it in a different way. I'm just simply rotating mine to sort of match my reference a little better, but it doesn't make any difference. Okay. All right. So next, let's go to Mesh Tools and do Insert Edge Loop. Click on Options. Let's go ahead and do multiple edge loops, and maybe 12 should work. So I'm just going to click on one of these lines here and do 12 edge loops. So I think that's perfect. All right. Now let's maybe create some of this, maybe not exactly the same, but something similar, something that is holding our parchment paper together. And we need to create that piece first before we add this sort of a flare look. That would be at the very end. So first you want to model everything while all the shapes are straight and easier to control, right? So there's a couple different ways we can do this. One, we can extrude our shape from this geometry by just selecting faces. We could do that. Or maybe we should make it even more simple. And let's just simply grab a torus and just make one. Make a shape that we can use for the middle part. And now what I would like to do is hold on the J key. I'm going to kind of rotate it. We can come up here in our channel box and set these values to 0 to kind of position it in the center. We could also go to the attribute editor and go to the polytorus tab and change the divisions, as we maybe like it to be a little less detailed. You can also, of course, control the roundness of it. So in my case, I guess I'm going to go with maybe like 23. I think this makes sense. Now I can select this and we can scale this out. So that's one way of doing it, and you can see that it's doing something strange to the edges. We can maybe also just simply drag it out, press Ctrl D and drag this end here. And let's not worry about this being in the center yet, but let's just maybe connect both of these together. So I'm going to hide this for a minute. I have a hide button right here. If you don't have that, it's under Display, Hide Selection. And if you wanted to drag it on your shelf like I have it, all you need to do is just go to Hide Selection. When you're hovering over it, just simply hold on Control, Shift, and left click, and that will add the button to your shelf, right? So I'm just gonna hide my selection, and let's take a look at these guys. So what I'd like to do here is I'm gonna click on one, hold on the shift, connect them, or just drag a selection, same thing, right? And once they're both selected, let's go ahead and combine them by pressing this button here. So now they turn into one shape. Now we can go into a face mode, and let's click here, double click here, and then do the same thing. Holding down the shift key, I'm going to click and double click, and then I'm going to press delete. And now let's go to edge mode, and then double click on this, shift, double click, and let's do that same thing here. I'm going to shift and double click on both of these edges. I'm going to go to scale and just scale them in kind of closer together. That's another way of doing it. And once they're connected, we can go to verts. Let's select these verts, go to edit mesh, and let's do a merge. And when you do a merge right now, keep in mind you can look at your verts here on your heads up display. If you don't have that, that's under display, heads up display poly count. That's what these numbers are, right? So in my case, I have 92 verts selected right now. And I know that if I go to edit mesh and merge, I know that 92 is going to change, right? It's to half, right? So what, 46? So I'm going to click on it, and sure enough, they merged, and now they're 46. So essentially, I welded them together, right? And that's great. So I'm happy with this. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to double click on this line here, and maybe one inside too. And actually, I'm just realizing I don't actually need any of these faces inside here. So I'm going to click on one, double click, and then click on this and double click, press delete. I don't want any of those inside faces. Now I'm going to go to edge mode, double click on my edge, and let's go ahead and do a bevel. And let's kind of move it closer to the edge, somewhere in this neighborhood. And now what we can do is we can take these faces here, and maybe let's extrude them to make the shape a little more. I want to make sure I grab the blue line, make them a little more interesting. And if you wanted to, we can even scale them in a little. And again, you can play around with the height. You can even go in if you wanted to, or go out. So your call, but kind of make it whatever you would like it to be. Once you're done, go to object mode, and let's say show all. If you don't have that button, that's under display, show all. Same thing, do Control Shift left click if you want to have it on your shelf. Now I'm going to click on this. I'm going to center my pivot, grab my move tool, hold down the X key, and just kind of snap it in the center. Now I know it's centered. And I know it's not exactly like this reference, but we're kind of creating our own version, I guess. All right, so another thing we could do if we wanted to, we can add some middle detail too. So we can just keep inserting more edges. So maybe let's go to options, and we can do, let's do 3, and then click here. We can now select all of these guys. Let's do another extrude. So something like that is cool. If we wanted to create like this little part where it clicks onto itself, maybe there's a few different ways we can do it, but maybe we can just grab these faces here, kind of extrude them out, and then go into verts mode. And using this tool, we can kind of snap these together like this. And that kind of sort of creates this effect like maybe this is the part where it closes, right? If we wanted to We can also go into isolate mode, go to this isolate mode, go to faces. Let's grab all of these. And now if we unhide our shape, go to scale. Let's go ahead and scale this. Let's see. I'm going to scale this out and then in. So something like that. So I'm trying to create kind of this lip where it looks like the cover is going over the parchment paper, right? Right in there. So there's almost like, you can see there's like a shadow here. And I know theirs is uneven, but I honestly think it's a hand drawing, so it doesn't really matter, but I want to create kind of this overpass, right? So that's kind of cool. Another thing we could do is maybe we can add like a little button. So let's click on this shape here. Let's click on this button here to go live. And once our surface is live, we can grab any one of these shapes. So in my case, I'm thinking maybe just something simple like the cylinder, and just drag the cylinder right on top of this part here, sort of kind of creating a button. So I think that's cool. We can also uncheck the live now, and let's go into attribute editor, poly cylinder tab, and let's turn off the caps. And now since the caps are off, let's go ahead and move this in a little more. Click on isolate, go on this side, go into face mode, click on this face and press delete. We don't need that face because this is a game prop, right? So we don't want extra polygons. And now let's go into face mode. Let's click on this guy and extrude. Click on this and let's make a little detail. Extrude again, maybe push it in, do something like that. If we wanted to, we could do it again, extrude it one more time, and maybe do something like that. So it looks like a fancy little button at the end. So you can go as crazy as you want. So once all of that is done, let's go ahead and take all of these shapes and combine them. I'm going to click on this button here to combine them all. And you can see there's craziness going on in our outliner. So let's go to Edit, Delete by Type History. And now our outliner is clean. We can of course double click on this and call it whatever we want. And now to add this kind of a fun flared look, what I would do is go to Modeling, Deform, Nonlinear. We could do a flare. That's one way of doing it. Or we can even go to Lettuce and click on Options. And if I say Reset, let's take a look. And let's double up on these. So I'm going to do 4, 4, 4. I'm going to do 4 all the way around on divisions and local divisions and say Create. Yeah, this is what I want. Now, if I right click, I can go to Lettuce Points. And let's grab these points, hold on the Shift key, select all these points, just grab our Scale tool and just kind of scale them up. But I think what I'd like to do is scale them up and over like that. And the reason I'm doing that is because it's creating the tapered effect, but it's also kind of make it a little more uneven looking, so it's not so perfectly, you know, so it's not so perfect. You can even squish it a little bit, so it looks a little uneven. I think that's really cool. Let's go ahead and go to object mode, click on this, and let's go ahead and clear our history. All right, that gets rid of our lettuce. And now the only last detail that I see is that they have these cool paper rips. And let's add those real quick. Let's go to verts. Let's grab maybe this guy here, go to move, and just kind of do something like this. We can do maybe one here. And you can figure out what makes sense on your end. Maybe I want to get a couple that are a little closer together. So something like that. Just be mindful about where they're ending up and making sure it doesn't go over like the next edge, because you don't want to do something like that. You want to make sure that you stop before the edge before it, right? So you can rough up your paper a little bit. Maybe let's do, when you select these, make sure you could see right there, I just selected, looks like I selected 2, but check this out, in my heads up display it says 6, right? Which means I probably grabbed something that I didn't want to grab. And sure enough, you can see that it did that. So always pay attention to your heads up display. But another way of doing it is maybe clicking on one, shift and selecting it, and this way I know I just have 2. So maybe again, be mindful, right? Can do one here. So once you're done, I think the next step would just be doing UVs and then having fun in Substance Painter, just painting this up. If you wanted to, you can of course do a little more. You can go to verts and maybe select all of these like that. Go to scale. You can go to soft selection, turn soft selection on, and then I'm in volume mode, so you can pump this up a little bit and maybe squish this in a little more. Just create even more kind of a cartoony effect here, right? So the combination of soft select and the lettuce, you can see you can create really fun shapes. All right, so this whole object right now is only 2,500 faces or 5,000 tries, so it's very clean, low poly, great game asset, and I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. So the next step, again, just do UVs. So you can do UVs like I showed you in other videos. You can do it automatic UVs by just going to UV, automatic, and do project. And if you want to see what your current UVs look like, just click on this button here. You can see that it's complete and total nonsense, right? So you do want to do some kind of a layout. Now, if it's yellow like this, that just means you have to press B. That means you're in soft select mode. So just keep that in mind. And if you're not happy with these automatic UVs, you can do it manually. I showed you how to do that in previous videos as well. We can, maybe do that in our next video if you wanted to. Let me know. And then, of course, you can bring this into Substance Painter and do UVs, automatic UVs in Substance Painter as well. So there's all these different options. But I think I'm going to stop this video here. I hope you learned a lot. And yeah, thanks for watching. And I'll see you in the next video.